The shuttle touched down on Verath's scorched surface, and Marcus felt the weight of failure before he even stepped onto the landing platform. 3 months of negotiations had produced nothing. The Verath wanted resources Earth couldn't spare. Earth wanted technology the Verath refused to share. He was a diplomat trained to find common ground, but there was no ground left to find. The air hit him like a furnace as the hatch opened. Verath's twin suns blazed overhead, turning the metal walkway into a river of heat shimmer. He descended alone. The Verath Council had insisted on minimal security, minimal staff, minimal everything. They were making a point. Humanity wasn't welcome here. At the base of the platform, a crowd had gathered. Not the usual diplomatic reception. These were civilians. Hundreds of them. Their crystalline skin caught the light in ways that still unsettled him after months of exposure. Beautiful and alien and utterly unreadable. They pressed close to the barriers, watching him with those dark, faceted eyes that held no pupils, no whites, just endless depth. Then she stepped forward, a Verath woman, her skin the color of midnight ocean, moving through the crowd like water finding a path. She was pregnant, heavily so. Her belly swelled beneath the flowing fabric of her garment, and something about the way she moved made every instinct in Marcus's body scream danger. The guards tried to stop her, but she slipped past them with impossible grace. She came straight for him. Marcus's hand moved toward the stunner at his hip, then froze. She wasn't attacking. She was reaching out, her 6-fingered hand extending toward him with something that looked like desperate need. She touched her belly with one hand. With the other, she reached for his face. Her fingers stopped inches from his skin, trembling in the superheated air. "Marcus," she whispered. His name, in perfect English. Marcus Reed. The world tilted. He'd never seen this woman before in his life. He'd never given his full name to any Verath outside the council chambers, and yet she spoke it like a prayer, like a curse, like something she'd carried inside her for longer than should be possible. "How do you know?" He started, but she collapsed. Her legs simply gave out, and he caught her without thinking. Her weight was wrong. Too heavy for her frame. The pregnancy wasn't natural. Even he could tell that much. "Help her!" he shouted, but the Verath guards were already moving. Not to help. To arrest. They grabbed his arms with crushing force, their crystalline fingers cold despite the heat. They pulled the woman from his grasp, and she cried out, a sound of pure anguish that cut through the crowd noise like a blade. "You have violated the accord," the lead guard said. His English was mechanical, learned from translators. Contact with unauthorized Verath citizens. Violation of genetic separation protocols. I didn't touch her first. She came to me! Irrelevant. You are both under arrest. They dragged him toward a transport vehicle, and he watched them carry the woman in the opposite direction. She was unconscious now, her head lolling, her hands still pressed to her belly, protecting something. Or someone. Marcus had been a diplomat for 12 years. He'd negotiated treaties on 6 different worlds. He knew when something was wrong. This wasn't wrong. This was catastrophic. The woman knew his name. She'd sought him out specifically. And that pregnancy? The thought hit him like a physical blow. The genetic separation protocols. The strict laws both species had agreed to after first contact. No hybrid experiments. The punishment was death for both species. But what if someone had broken those laws? What if that child... The transport lurched forward, and through the armored window, Marcus saw Verath's capital city rising in the distance. Somewhere in that sprawl of crystal towers and ancient stone, the council was meeting. And somewhere else, that woman was being taken to whatever passed for a holding cell on this world. She had spoken his name. She had touched her belly. And deep in his gut, Marcus knew that child was connected to him in ways that should be impossible. The transport's comm system crackled to life. "Attention, diplomatic vessel Marcus Reed. Priority communication from Earth. Queen Elena requests immediate secure channel." Marcus's blood went cold. The Queen. Elena never contacted field diplomats directly. Never. She had thousands of people to handle that. For her to reach out now meant something had gone terribly, impossibly wrong. "Connect me," he said. The guard beside him hesitated, then nodded. They were curious too. The Verath might hate humans, but they respected power, and Queen Elena commanded more power than any human in history. The screen flickered to life, and there she was. Elena, 60 years old and still striking, her silver hair pulled back in the severe style she'd worn since taking the throne. But her eyes, Marcus had seen those eyes in 100 diplomatic feeds, always calm, always controlled. Now they held something he'd never seen before. Fear, Marcus, she said. Listen carefully. I'm boarding a ship to Verath now. I'll arrive in 36 hours. Until then, tell them nothing. Admit nothing, and whatever you do, don't let them execute that woman. Your Majesty, I don't understand. You will. But Marcus, I need you to trust me. Everything you've worked for, everything we've built, it all depends on what happens in the next 2 days. I authorized something that will either save both our species or start a war that destroys us all. The screen went dark. The transport continued forward, and somewhere in the distance Marcus heard the woman's voice again, echoing in his memory. Marcus Reed. She had known he was coming. She had been waiting for him, and now the Queen of Earth was dropping everything to reach this planet personally. The pieces were there, hovering just out of reach. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to assemble them. Genetic separation protocols. Hybrid pregnancy, his name. The Queen's fear. When the answer came, it was so obvious he almost laughed, except nothing about this was funny. They'd used his DNA. Somehow, someone had taken samples from him and used them to create that child. The first human Verath hybrid. And if the Council discovered the truth before Elena arrived, both he and that woman would be dead by sunset. The transport doors opened. Verath guards hauled him into a crystalline building that pulsed with inner light. Somewhere above, the Council was convening. Somewhere below, the woman was being examined by physicians who would discover the truth within hours. 36 hours until Elena arrived. Marcus had survived riots, assassination attempts, and a poisoning on his second assignment, but he'd never had to survive something like this. He'd never had to protect a secret that could end 2 civilizations. The guards threw him into a cell. The walls were clear crystal, offering no privacy, no darkness, just the blazing light of Verath's suns and the knowledge that somewhere in this building a woman he'd never met was carrying a child that shared his DNA. She had touched her belly and spoken his name. Now he had to keep both of them alive long enough to learn why. The interrogation began immediately. They brought him to a chamber deep underground where the heat finally faded, replaced by a cold that seeped into his bones. 3 council members sat across from him, their crystalline bodies refracting the chamber's blue light into 1,000 scattered fragments. State your connection to the Verath citizen designated Lyra Velashara, the center counselor said. Her voice resonated like struck glass, beautiful and sharp. I have no connection. I'd never seen her before today. She spoke your name, your full name. Explain this? Marcus kept his face neutral. 12 years of diplomatic training. Never show weakness. Never reveal more than necessary. I can't explain it. Perhaps she learned it from your intelligence services. Perhaps she's mentally ill, I don't know. The counselor on the left leaned forward. His skin was darker, the color of deep space between stars. Our physicians have examined Lyra Velashara. She carries a child. A hybrid child. Human and Verath DNA merged in ways that should be impossible. There it was, the truth spoken aloud. Marcus felt his heart hammering but kept his expression calm. That's impossible. The genetic separation protocols were violated by your people, or ours, or both. The counselor's voice dropped to something dangerous. The penalty is death for the mother. For the child, and for whoever provided the human genetic material. Marcus met his eyes. Then I suppose you'll need to find out who that was. We already know. They showed him the scan. Medical data he couldn't fully interpret, but the markers were clear enough. The child's human DNA matched his own profile, stored in Earth's diplomatic database. Someone had accessed that database, extracted his genetic information, and used it to create this hybrid. I didn't consent to this, Marcus said. It was the truth. I had no knowledge of any hybrid program, yet here we are. Your DNA inside a Verath woman, creating an abomination that threatens both our species, or saves them. The words came from behind Marcus. A new voice. Female. Human. He turned and saw her stepping into the chamber through a side entrance he hadn't noticed. But this wasn't just any human. The guards were bowing. The counselors were rising to their feet. Queen Elena had arrived early. She looked older than the transmission image. The journey had cost her something, but she moved with absolute authority, crossing the chamber like she owned it. Maybe she did. At 60, Elena commanded the loyalty of 43 billion humans across 17 colony worlds. The Verath might not like her, but they respected power. Your Majesty, the center counselor said, you were not expected for another 30 hours. I was closer than I said. It seemed prudent. Elena's eyes found Marcus. Diplomat Reed, you're unharmed? For now. Good. She turned to the counselors. I'm here to explain everything. But first, I need to see Lyra Hara and confirm her condition. Is the child viable? That is not your concern. It's entirely my concern. Because I authorized the hybrid program, I selected Marcus Reed as the genetic donor, and I take full responsibility for violating the accord. The chamber went silent. Marcus felt the words land like physical blows. She had done this. The Queen of Earth had violated the most sacred treaty between their species, had stolen his DNA without permission, had created a child that could start a war. You admit to this crime? The Dark Counselor asked. I admit to doing what was necessary. Both our species are dying. You know it. We know it. The genetic bottleneck is closing. Humans can't colonize new worlds without suffering cascade failures in our children. Verath birth rates have dropped 40% in 2 generations. We're both circling extinction. The hybrid program was the only solution. It was forbidden. It was survival. Elena's voice cracked like thunder. I didn't want this, but I'm the queen. I had to choose between honoring a treaty and saving my species. I chose survival, and I'd make the same choice again. The center counselor's skin pulsed with inner light, a sign of extreme agitation. You have doomed us all. The moment other worlds learn of this, they will demand both our destruction. Genetic purity laws are about to become irrelevant. Because that child in Lyra's womb isn't just viable, it's thriving. Our physicians have been monitoring the pregnancy remotely. The hybrid is developing abilities neither species possesses. Enhanced telepathic bonding, cellular regeneration far beyond either parent, and most importantly, genetic stability that could restore both our populations. Marcus found his voice. You used my DNA without consent. Elena met his eyes. I did. And I'd apologize if it would matter. But you were the only match. We screened every human in the diplomatic corps. Your genetic markers had the compatibility we needed. The rare mutation clusters, the adaptive sequences. You were the key, Marcus. Without you, the program would have failed. So you just took what you needed. Yes. Because the alternative was watching both our species die slowly over the next 2 centuries. She turned back to the counselors. I'm here to offer a deal. Spare Lyra and the child. Let them live long enough to prove the hybrid works. If I'm wrong, if the child fails, you can execute me in their place. I offer my life as collateral. The silence stretched. Marcus watched the counselors exchange glances, their faceted eyes catching the light. They were communicating somehow. Telepathically, maybe? The Verath had abilities humans still didn't fully understand. Finally, the center counselor spoke. We must consult our council in full. But there is something you should know, Queen Elena. Lyra Hara is not simply a random citizen. She is a prophet of the old ways. She has spoken of this child in visions since she was young. She saw a human male with specific genetic patterns. She described Marcus Reed before we ever made contact with your species. Marcus felt the ground shift beneath him. That's impossible. So are many things, until they happen. The counselor's attention shifted to Elena. If Lyra's visions are true, this child represents either our salvation or our doom. The ancient texts speak of a bridge between worlds, a being born of two bloods who will unite the stars or burn them to ash. Prophecy, Elena said. You're basing your decision on prophecy? We're basing our decision on survival, the same thing you claim motivated your crime. The counselor rose. We will reconvene in 12 hours. Until then, Lyra Velshara will be held in medical containment. Marcus Reed and Queen Elena will be confined but treated with diplomatic courtesy. And I suggest you both pray to whatever gods you honor that this child proves worthy of the chaos it has created. They were escorted to separate chambers. Marcus didn't see Elena again until the guards brought them both to a secure conference room 6 hours later. She looked exhausted, her silver hair disheveled, her shoulders slumped in a way he'd never seen. I'm sorry, she said when the guards left them alone, for using you, for lying. For all of it. Marcus sat across from her. How long have you known? About the genetic collapse? 8 years. Our best scientists confirmed it. We tried everything. Genetic engineering, clone populations, radical therapy protocols. Nothing worked. The human genome is too specialized. We evolved for Earth. Every colony world adds new stresses, new mutations. Within 5 generations on any planet, we start seeing catastrophic birth defects. And the Verath? Similar problem, different cause. They're too stable, no genetic diversity. They've been using artificial reproduction for so long that natural births are becoming impossible. Give them another century and they'll need machinery just to continue existing as a species. Marcus leaned back. The pieces were assembling into a picture he didn't want to see. So you created a hybrid program, combined our strengths, hoped for a miracle. Not hoped. Calculated. We ran 7,000 simulations. The only successful outcomes required genetic material from very specific human donors, combined with very specific Verath matches. You and Lyra were the highest probability pairing. 92% success rate. And the other 8%? Elena's silence was answer enough. The other 8% meant death. For the child. For the mother. For whoever had been foolish enough to try. Lyra volunteered, Elena continued. When our Verath partners in the program explained what we needed, she came forward. Said she'd seen this in her visions. Seen the child. Seen you. She knew the risks and accepted them. Partners? The Verath government knew about this, not the council. A faction. Scientists and prophets who believed the old ways. They wanted this as much as we did. Elena's eyes found his. I'm dying, Marcus. Cancer. The same cellular instability that's killing our species. I have maybe 6 months. I wanted to leave something behind. Something that mattered. This child. If it survives, it proves we can merge. That both species have a future together. The door opened before Marcus could respond. A Verath physician entered, her skin the color of Arctic ice, her movements precise and urgent. The council requires your presence immediately. Lyra Velshara has entered early labor. The child is coming now, and there are complications. They ran through corridors of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent light, down into the depths of the council complex, where the medical facilities hummed with technology that blended Verath organic architecture and human machinery. The door to the birthing chamber was guarded by 6 warriors, but they stepped aside when they saw Elena. Inside, Lyra lay on a platform that adjusted to her body's contours. Her skin was dark with stress patterns, her breathing rapid and shallow. Machines surrounded her, monitoring vital signs and displays Marcus couldn't read. But he didn't need to read them. He could see the distress in every line of her body. Marcus. Her voice was weak but clear. She saw him and reached out, her 6-fingered hand trembling. You came. He moved to her side without thinking, took her hand. Her skin was burning hot, pulsing with fever heat that should have killed her. I'm here. What do you need? The child. It's... She gasped as another contraction hit. It's calling out. Can you feel it? Marcus felt nothing except her hand in his and the crushing weight of responsibility. I don't understand. The bond. The telepathic link. The child is broadcasting. Her eyes found his, those faceted depths holding something ancient and knowing. I saw you in my visions, saw this moment. The child needs you to answer. Needs you to accept the connection, or it will die. I'm not telepathic. I'm human. We can't. You can. The hybrid has abilities we don't. It's reaching for both parents. I've accepted my half. You must accept yours. Elena stepped forward. Marcus. The physicians say the child's neural activity is off the charts. It's trying to establish a telepathic bond with both genetic parents simultaneously. If you don't accept the connection, the feedback could kill Lyra and the child both. I don't know how. Lyra's grip tightened. Close your eyes. Feel for the thread. The connection. It's been there since the child was conceived. You just haven't known to look. Marcus closed his eyes. Felt ridiculous. Daft. Felt terrified, but he searched inside himself for something that shouldn't exist. A connection to a child he'd never intended to create. A bond with a woman he'd met hours ago. And there, just at the edge of his consciousness, a presence, small and fragile and desperate, reaching for him with a need that transcended species, transcended everything except the fundamental bond between parent and child. He reached back. The world exploded into sensation, not pain, not exactly, but an overwhelming flood of emotion and thought and awareness that crashed through his mental barriers like a tsunami. He felt Lyra's agony and determination, felt the child's terror and hope, felt the bond snap into place like a circuit completing. And then he felt everyone else. Every human in Verath within a kilometer radius, all of them suddenly connected through the child's expanding telepathic field. The guards outside the door, the physicians' monitoring equipment, the counselors in their chambers above, all of them experiencing the same moment, the same impossible connection. The child was being born, and it was dragging both species into its first moments of life. Lyra screamed. The physicians worked frantically, and Marcus held on to the connection with everything he had, because letting go now meant death for the child, for Lyra, for maybe everyone caught in this telepathic storm. Push, the physician commanded. Now. The child is crowning. Time stopped meaning anything. There was only the bond, the connection. The overwhelming presence of a consciousness being born into awareness with abilities that dwarfed both parent species. Marcus felt himself fragmenting, felt his identity dissolving into the collective experience. Then a cry, not telepathic, physical. A baby's first breath becoming a wail that cut through the silence. The connection snapped. The telepathic field collapsed. Marcus staggered backward, his mind his own again, but forever changed by what he'd felt. He opened his eyes and saw the physicians holding a child, small and wet and perfect, skin that shifted between crystalline Verath patterns and smooth human tones, eyes that held both species' depths. "It's a girl," the physician said, her voice thick with wonder. "And she's stable, all vitals within acceptable ranges. The hybrid is viable." Lyra was crying. So was Elena. Marcus found himself kneeling beside Lyra's platform, watching her cradle the child against her chest. The baby quieted immediately, her impossible eyes tracking movement, awareness, already far beyond what any newborn should possess. "What do we call her?" Marcus whispered. Lyra smiled through her tears. "Hope. We call her Hope." The next hours passed in a blur. The council convened an emergency session. The telepathic burst had affected thousands. There was panic, confusion, but also understanding. For the first time in the history of both species, humans and Verath had shared a collective experience, had felt each other's thoughts and emotions without translation or misunderstanding. They had felt Hope's first moments, had experienced her hybrid consciousness, and they had recognized the truth Elena had been trying to tell them. This child was the future. The council's judgment came at dawn. Marcus stood with Elena in the grand chamber while Lyra remained in medical care with Hope. The three counselors who had interrogated him looked different now. Less hostile, more uncertain. "We have deliberated," the center counselor announced. "The law is clear. Genetic mixing is forbidden. The penalty is death. And yet we have experienced something unprecedented. The child's telepathic bond has shown us possibilities we had not considered. Then spare them, Elena said. Give Hope a chance to prove herself. We cannot simply ignore our laws, but we can propose a new path. The counselor's skin pulsed with decision light. We establish a formal hybrid accord. Earth provides the genetic technology and donors. Verath provides compatible candidates. We create a controlled program, limited scope, full transparency, and we give these hybrid children the chance to grow, to prove whether they are salvation or threat. Marcus found his voice. And if they prove to be threats, then we end the program and execute all hybrids humanely before they can endanger our species. The counselor's gaze was steady. But if they prove to be salvation, if they can restore genetic diversity to both our peoples, then we have found the path forward. Together. Elena stepped forward. I accept these terms. On behalf of Earth and all its colonies, the hybrid accord will be established under my authority. I will use my remaining time to ensure its success. Remaining time? The Dark Counselor asked. I'm dying. Cancer. I have perhaps 6 months. I intend to spend them making sure Hope and the children who follow her have the chance they deserve. The counselors exchanged glances. Then, slowly, they bowed. A gesture of respect Marcus had never seen them give any human. Then we have an accord. Let it be recorded that on this day, humanity and Verath chose survival over law, chose hope over fear, and chose to build something new from our combined strengths. They were escorted back to Lyra's chamber. She was sitting up now, stronger, with Hope sleeping in her arms. The baby's skin shifted colors as she dreamed, crystalline patterns flowing into human smoothness and back again. They accepted the accord, Elena said. Lyra smiled. I know. I felt the decision through the residual bond. Hope is still connected to the counselors, to everyone who experienced her birth. The link is faint now, but it's there. She will grow up knowing both species, understanding both peoples. Marcus sat beside her. Daughter. The word felt strange in his mind, but somehow right. What happens now? Now I return to Earth and make this work, Elena said. I'll establish the program properly. Get volunteers. Create the structure to support these children. And when I die, someone else will continue the work. But Hope, she'll be the first. The proof that this can succeed. And what about me? Marcus asked. I'm supposed to just go back to being a diplomat? Pretend I don't have a daughter? Lyra's hand found his. Stay, if you want. Hope needs both her parents, and I need... She paused, searching for words. I need someone who understands, who felt what I felt when she was born. Marcus looked at Elena. She nodded. You've done more for Earth than any diplomat in history. If you want to stay on Verath, help raise Hope. I'll assign you as permanent liaison to the hybrid accord. No one is better suited. It should have been an impossible decision. Leaving Earth. Leaving his career. Staying on an alien world to raise a child with a woman he barely knew. But when Hope opened her eyes and looked at him with that impossible hybrid awareness, the decision was already made. I'll stay. The weeks that followed brought change at a speed that terrified both governments. The telepathic burst from Hope's birth had left lasting impressions. Humans in Verath who had experienced the connection reported new understanding of each other. Diplomats found negotiations easier. Scientists collaborated with sudden insight into each other's methods. Hope became more than a child. She became a symbol. The living proof that both species could merge without losing themselves. Elena worked with manic intensity, establishing the hybrid accord as a formal treaty. She recruited volunteers from Earth's diplomatic corps. She negotiated with Verath factions to find compatible partners. Within 3 months, 6 more hybrid pregnancies were confirmed. All stable, all viable. And all carrying children with telepathic abilities even stronger than Hope's. But Elena was fading. The cancer was aggressive. Resistant to treatment, she spent less time in meetings and more time with Hope, holding the baby and whispering plans for a future she wouldn't see. Marcus found her one evening in the observation room, watching Verath's sun set over the Crystal City. She looked frail, transparent, like she was already half gone. How long? He asked. Weeks, maybe less. She turned to him. Will you tell Hope about me when she's old enough to understand? Every day, I'll tell her the Queen of Earth believed in her before she was even born. That you gave everything to make sure she could exist. Good. Elena's smile was sad. I never had children, never had time. I was too busy building an empire. But Hope, she feels like mine too. Like she belongs to all of us. She does. They stood in silence, watching the light fade. Behind them, through the chamber walls, Marcus could hear Lyra singing to Hope. A Verath lullaby, ancient and haunting. His daughter responding with small telepathic pulses of contentment that everyone in the building could feel. I made the right choice, Elena said quietly. Using your DNA without asking. Breaking the treaty. All of it. I'd do it again. I know. Are you happy? Here with them? Marcus considered. Happiness seemed too small a word for what he felt. Terror, wonder, love, responsibility, all of it mixed together into something that felt like purpose, like his entire life had been leading to this moment, to this child, to this impossible future. Yes, he said, I'm happy. Elena died 3 weeks later aboard a transport heading back to Earth. She passed quietly in her sleep, her last words a request to see Hope one more time. The hybrid child had been brought to her chamber, and Elena had held her with failing strength, whispering promises about the world Hope would inherit. Both species mourned. Humans and Verath came together in ceremonies that would have been impossible a year ago. They shared grief through the telepathic bonds Hope and the other hybrid children maintained. They felt each other's loss and found comfort in collective sorrow. Hope was 6 months old when Marcus realized the full scope of what Elena had started. 7 hybrid children were born now, all healthy, all developing the telepathic abilities that bridged both species. The oldest, a boy named Unity, had started walking at 4 months and was already demonstrating problem-solving skills that shocked xenopsychologists. These children weren't just viable. They were exceptional, and they were changing everything. Lyra found Marcus in their quarters one evening, reviewing reports from Earth. The hybrid accord was expanding. 20 new pregnancies confirmed, 50 more volunteers approved. The program was becoming self-sustaining. "You're worried," she said. Wasn't a question. Their bond had deepened over the months. Not telepathic like Hope's, but something equally powerful. Shared purpose. Shared love. Shared terror at the responsibility they carried. I'm terrified, Marcus admitted. What if we're wrong? What if these children grow up and decide they're superior to both parent species? What if we've created something we can't control? Lyra sat beside him. Damn. Then we guide them. Show them how to use their abilities for good. Hope will learn from us. The others will learn from their parents. We build a culture of cooperation, not domination. Elena believed that. She died believing it. And she was right. Look at what's already changed. Humans and Verath working together, sharing technology, sharing cultures. Hope and the others are bridges. And bridges connect. They don't conquer. Marcus wanted to believe that. Needed to believe it. Because the alternative was too terrible. If these hybrid children became threats, both species would unite to destroy them. And destroying Hope would destroy him. Hope crawled into the room at that moment, moving with the unsettling speed and coordination all the hybrids possessed. She pulled herself up using Marcus's leg, her skin shifting to match his tone, her eyes bright with hybrid intelligence. Duh, she said. Perfect English. She'd spoken Verath words to Lyra earlier, already bilingual at 6 months. Already understanding more than any infant should. Marcus lifted her into his arms, felt the warmth of her small body, the pulse of her consciousness reaching for his through their bond. She wasn't a threat. She was his daughter, and she was Hope incarnate. We're going to be okay, Lyra said softly. All of us. Both species. Elena's sacrifice won't be wasted. Marcus kissed Hope's forehead and prayed she was right. Because the future of 2 civilizations rested in the hands of children who were barely learning to walk. Children who could unite the stars or burn them to ash. And in his arms, Hope giggled and reached for both her parents, creating a telepathic link that filled the room with warmth and light, and the absolute certainty that whatever came next, they would face it together. 2 worlds, 2 species, 1 hope. The Queen had changed their fates. Now it was up to them to make sure that change led somewhere worth going.